It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. We begin here at home, as always, in a bid to navigate the turbulence and uncertainty in the global economy created by United States President Donald Trump's new tariffs on countries. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's Economic Management Team, the EMT, yesterday disclosed plans to appraise the various scenarios in the ongoing trade war and advise the federal government on the way forward. The EMT may advise the federal government to consider adjusting the 2025 budget. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister, Mr. Wale Edun, disclosed this in Abuja while reacting to the global trade war, adding that the federal government would appraise the various scenarios and options and advise the government accordingly. This was as the Naira, in line with global trend since the announcement of additional tariffs by Trump, depreciated further yesterday, closing at 1,629 per dollar at the official Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange Market, that's NAFEM, a 1.81% decline compared to 1,600 to $1 on Friday, and this is despite sustained interventions by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Great to have you in Studio Rotus as we unpack. I suppose this is going to be the agenda really for the week, is how are we as Nigeria going to respond to the tariffs and the, not yet a tariff war, but the threat of a tariff war?
Yeah, well, I mean, the issue, of course, is that we have to be diplomatic about this in terms of our language towards the United States, right? Because there's really not much that Nigeria can do. What is Nigeria going to do? Are you going to meet with the U.S. delegation and say we will buy more U.S. products? It is businesses and individuals that are importing those items. So the U.S., the trade representative put out a tweet yesterday, a long thread, listing different countries that it says has unfair practices in trading with the U.S. They listed Nigeria, they listed Kenya, Botswana, a number of other countries. But the key thing that everyone at home and in your office, wherever you're watching, needs to remember is that the U.S. is the largest economy in the world with some of the wealthiest citizens, per capita GDP of over $80,000, right? So they have the capacity to buy more items from smaller countries, right? But to now ask for these smaller countries to somehow level the trading gap is impossible. It's just not. It's like the wealthiest man in your village who buys the most firewood from a firewood seller in your village. And then he now comes around and says, you know what, I buy all this firewood from you. I want you to buy something else that's reciprocal from my home. How much can the firewood seller buy from him? It's just not possible. Everyone at home that is watching has a quote unquote trade deficit with your supermarket. Can you go to your supermarket and say, I buy all this soap from you every month, buy something from me? So the Nigerian delegation simply just has to put out a diplomatic message. The Minister of Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, already spoke with Adefemi Akinsanya. We'll bring that interview. Her response was very measured, but in practical terms, with all these negotiations that are going on, there is just no realistic way in a short period of time that businesses and individuals in the various countries that the United States is saying are doing unfair practices can meet that trade gap. It's just not economically possible. But in terms of how to manage the situation, I think the CBN has sold another $122 million into the market. So they've sold about $319 million total, including the $197 on Friday. They will do the best they can to manage the situation and keep the currency as close to where it is as possible within a range, which speaks to the prudent measures that the central bank has taken in terms of allowing the currency to weaken, building up reserves. Gross reserves are 40 billion, net reserves are 23. That, of course, is a buffer that we have to hopefully weather this storm. And we'll get to the business part. Stocks seem to be rising this early morning in Asia temporarily. But at the end of the day, measured response to the U.S., but in practical terms, there's really nothing we can do to close that trade gap.
Well, I think it's in order that the economic management team of Nigeria is planning to meet to discuss the implications of this Trump tariffs, which obviously, have roiled the market, created crisis even in the United States and also globally. We discussed this subject today. It's still the major subject. Trade wars have started all over the world. China is saying that it is ready to fight the United States to the end, whatever it takes. It has imposed already retaliatory tariffs of its own of about 34%. Trump has remained adamant about whatever any country wants to do. The reality also is that some countries have offered what they call concessions. Take Vietnam. Vietnam says, look, it's going to remove all tariffs on imports from the United States. Trump says no. Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, says it doesn't mean anything to them. The European Union is offering 0 for 0 tariffs. The United States says it is not interested. So in other words, we're not likely to see any shift in terms of the kind of disruption that the Trump tariffs have caused within the international global trade order. Now, so Minister Edun saying we're going to have a meeting of the economic management team to meet and look at this. That's what other countries are doing, particularly in the face of the defiance of Trump and his team. Now, what is the Minister Edun saying? He's saying that, look, there may be need to recalibrate the budget 2025. He says, well, we have 14%. There is an exemption for energy imports to the United States, but we still have that 4%. 90% of our exports to the US, they're oil and gas. But whatever it is, it could affect the budget calculations. For example, the benchmark for the 2025 budget of Nigeria, I think is $65. $75. Now, oil, spot price of crude oil, as a result of these tariffs, has gone down by about 3%. WTI is about 59.74. Brent crude is in the range of just $60. So how are we going to fund the projections in the Appropriation Act of 2025 of Nigeria? So on that score, Edun is right. On another side, Minister Oduwole, who is in charge of MITI, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, is saying, well, we have to look in the direction of non-oil exports and see how we can, drive out that up and how we can engage with our partners. Well, my own position on the issue of this engaging with partners is that, look, what are you going to engage with? Is it the same United States that does not want to talk to China? The same United States that is saying, look, all possible negotiations with China is off the table. If China goes ahead to impose its own threat of 34% by April 10, as they have promised, is it Nigeria or Zimbabwe that America will sit down with and be negotiating with? Or is it WTO that Uduwole referred to? Which WTO? The same WTO that the United States does not believe in. Yep. And they've suspended their payments to WTO. And that was why I said yesterday, because we discussed this same subject yesterday, that the statement that came from the MITI, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, it was just woolly, without specifics. If they have nothing to say, they should shut up. However, the whole idea of sitting down to say, okay, let's re-strategize, this thing also affects us, I think is a good idea on the surface of it. Whether we have the capacity to engage with the United States, even if, as Minister Edun says, we have a trade surplus. Well, it's because of oil and gas. But we are just vulnerable. And it is interesting that this was the same subject that came up at the opening session when Botchway, the Commonwealth Secretary General, was addressing the opening plenary yesterday, that Commonwealth countries have to come together, that there must be a need for greater cooperation within the Commonwealth. But all these Commonwealth countries, what is their basic weight, in international trade? Maybe if you take out India, maybe Australia, maybe Canada, maybe the United Kingdom, most of the 56 member countries that make up the Commonwealth do not have the nerve or the confidence to stand up to the United States. So we're dealing with Trumpism that is disrupting the global trade order. Is it a good thing for the world? I don't think so.
Neither do I.
Is it a good thing for the United States? I doubt. Now that the United States itself faces the threat of recession, and the entire world markets, also face recession. But I hear that investors like Reuters say that there is some advantage at a personal level, because this is a time when markets go down to buy stocks.
Exactly.
Because when the markets go down, in the elevator, behavior of markets that we have seen, when the markets go up, people who have money to buy stocks will gain. But that's not what we should be interested in. We should be interested in the health of the global economy and the rise of dictatorship and oligarchy and billionaire mentality in the running of the same country that is considered the world's freest country.
Right. So, with all that having said, we do commend the economic management team coming together and making a commitment to continue to come together and meet to discuss the issues. But with all due respect, I feel this is too little, possibly too late. The impending tariffs were a topic of discussion for a very long time. There was a big window for us to have prepared a buffer before Liberation Day. There was a countdown to Liberation Day. As much as we may not have been aware what the percentages would be and how they would be implemented, there was always an awareness that it was coming. Now, what is the big conversation, in my opinion? My take is that the American hegemony was destined for a decline. With or without the current shifts we're seeing, if you read economic history and even political history over the past decade, the end of the American century, the hegemony of the United States, has been predicted. And in fact, America should be commended for having been able to put it off for longer than most people had expected it to happen. Around COVID, 2020 is the era that most people thought that the American hegemony would officially come to an end. Now, what has created this? Ultimately, Donald Trump is reacting to the fact that a lot of jobs, a lot of manufacturing has, by law of unintended consequences, been exported out of the United States. Now, where is the opportunity for us? Because I want to continue to focus on the opportunity and the solutions for us here. As much as the economic management team are going to meet, number one, our issue that we need to address and address squarely, that we've critiqued several times over, is the over-politicization of our assumptions in our fiscal budget. We all knew that the number 75 for oil was an unrealistic figure based on other parameters. But now once you add the tariffs, now it has been confirmed that this number is not feasible. It can't work. The exchange rate, we also knew that this was highly untenable as well. Now, unfortunately, this event has come, the imposition of the tariffs has come as a sort of catalyst to prove that, in fact, these assumptions were never tenable. So what do we do from here? We've been talking about diversifying out of oil and gas for so long, yet we're not seeing anything out of it. Ultimately, tariffs and quotas are about competitiveness. So what are we going to do to make Nigerian products more competitive? What are we going to do to make Nigerian industry more competitive in the short term, the medium term, and the long term? Now, I believe there'll be other opportunities to dive deeper into this and other segments of the show. So let's move on with some of our agenda for the day. The Managing Director and CEO of Fidelity Bank PLC, Dr. Nneka Onyelikpe, was presented with a Woman of Impact Award from the Arise News Women of Impact Gala Night Award Show. Kayode Komolafe, Ombudsman, this day, Arise Media Group, presented the banking executive with the award, which recognized his stellar efforts in Nigeria's banking sector for reaching key milestones for Fidelity Bank PLC and inspiring women and girls along the way.
The month of March, globally, the month that women are celebrated all over the world. And here in Nigeria, the board of editors of that, we will talk to honor women making impact in Nigeria. And you especially the one of them. The awards it took place on March 21st, when we honored the women. Since we are not available that day, we thought it to be here to present the award of women making impact. But impact that we are making. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I feel highly honored to be recognized as one of the women who are making impact in Nigeria and globally. And this award couldn't have come at a better time when there's a lot of effort towards ensuring that women are given equal opportunities to grow, thrive, and prosper. I want to dedicate this award to every woman that's making efforts to dare to dream and advise that they shouldn't focus on the challenges, they should be strong, that they will definitely get there. Thank you very much, and I'm very grateful to Arise TV and team for making this possible, this presentation possible in my office. I'm very grateful to you and the chairman, Prince Ogbegbena. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Madam.
you.
All right, wonderful. Still celebrating our women making impact. The month of March may be over, but of course the celebrations will always continue as Nigerian women continue to move the needle, shatter those glass ceilings. I saw Rotus grinning in the presence of an Amazon. Now let's move on, unfortunately, on a somber note. Pascal Gabriel Dozie, founder of the defunct Diamond Bank PLC and chairman of Pan Atlantic University, has died at age 85. The family announced his death in the early hours of today. The statement from his son Uzoma Dozie, who represents the family, reads, "With deep sorrow, but with gratitude to God for a life well spent, we announce the passing of our beloved father, Pascal Gabriel Dozie, on 8th April 2025. He was a devoted husband, father, grandfather, and a man of unwavering Catholic faith. His life was marked by service to God, his family, and his country. He is survived by his loving wife, Chinyere, his children, grandchildren, and all who are blessed to know him. We thank God for the gift of his life and the legacy he leaves behind. May his soul rest in perfect peace. And of course, we do extend our condolences to the family, the loved ones, friends, and all those who were impacted by this giant who worked across so many sectors and made his impact felt.
Man was a trailblazer. He created jobs. He put food on the table for so many people. His kids are part of his legacy. His children, they have all, gone on to do some very successful things. I think he was also the founding partner of Africa Capital Alliance, which is one of the first private equity fund managers in Nigeria. So he was involved in a lot. Of course, remember, Diamond Bank being purchased by Access Bank in 2019. The man was a trailblazer, entrepreneur all the way, inspired a whole lot of people. His legacy will live, long in memory, particularly for myself and those in the business community that think about, the markers that he set down. And he'll be missed, but of course his memory lives on, and may he rest in peace.
Well, Mr. Pascal Dozie, CON, as you have pointed out, yes, he was a serial entrepreneur and one of the major figures in the Nigerian business and entrepreneurial community in the 20th and the 21st century in Nigeria. From a village around Owerri in Imo State, he rose to become one of the major icons in the business community in Nigeria. Former chairman of the MTN Foundation, former board member of African Capital Alliance, founder and the main inspiration behind the defunct Diamond Bank, former chairman or president of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, former chairman of the New Nigeria Foundation. I mean, I can go on and on, and then duly recognized for his contributions to the Nigerian state with the honor of Commander of the Order of the Niger. He will be greatly missed, and we commiserate with his wife and his family. But we also thank God for his life, the fact that he lived to the ripe age of 85 years. And in the course of those 85 years, he was able to make impact, not just at the family level, but also within the community and within the profession. And his ideas, live on in a book that he authored titled Perspectives on Nigeria's Economic Development. So this will be a major reference book for, I believe, members of not just the Stock Exchange, but also the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, in which he was also actively involved. At a personal level, I met him on two memorable occasions on the streets of London. The first time, many years ago, was on Harley Street. I don't want to sit there.
That's where the big shoppers are.
No. Harley Street is of a different character, but that's not for this narrative. We met at Harley Street, and I was so surprised seeing this big man from Nigeria, and it was the first, Ruben, what are you doing here? Okay, and I was just a struggling journalist like me, being noticed by, the chairman, founder of Diamond Bank. On another occasion, another year, in that same London, I met him at a train station. This time around, he was with one of his sons. He wanted to board the tube, the train, And I said, sir, what are you doing here? A man like you should be riding a Rolls Royce. He said, Ruben, leave matter. I grew up in Mushio. I grew up. Don't forget the fact that I'm chairman, founder of a bank. I know about this struggle, and all of us are in it together. I was shocked. And so, the thing is not just about people being rich, being big, being, national honor recipients. They started from somewhere. And I was impressed by his humility, his humanism, the fact that he had friends across the social strata, and he did not discriminate, whether you are a young man or you're an old man, whether you are rich or not. He would tell you, look, I've been there. I know how this thing is done. And so, we celebrate a man who lived a life of purpose, a life of achievement, and who impacted the lives of many Nigerians by creating jobs and opportunities for generations who, I believe, will always remember that each time they had the opportunity to have contact with him, they will remember him fondly as one of those great diamonds that Nigeria produced. And it is just interesting that his bank is also named Diamond Bank.
Absolutely.
May he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. Of course, we continue to pursue how we can cement the concept of generational legacy when it comes to African businesses, because often it's difficult to see them surpass certain stages and certain generations. What I love about Pascal Dozier's legacy is that, like Rotus pointed out, his children are active. You have Sparkle, you have Carbon Finance. They've gone on to create their own entities, which are also doing well in their own right. So as much as there was this bigger sense of contribution to the economy, it's so profound to see the leaders that he created from within his own family passing on that mantle and just the broader impact that that has made. So we wish for more like him. We wish many would emulate him. He was also a chairman of MTN, wore so many caps. So what an accomplished man. What a life to live at the age of 85. Surely his children will be sure to celebrate that life of impact and a true legacy for Nigeria.